Is that your signature right? Karen slammed the bill onto the table, her voice sharp like a verdict. I did not look at the paper, only at her red polished fingertips steady like blades. Jason stood behind her, a faint smile on his lips. Laura crossed her arms, waiting for me to explain. I said nothing. After that day I was thrown out of the house, even the keys were taken away. 3 years later she sat in court crying until her makeup ran. Jason kept his head down. Laura handed her a tissue. I sat behind the plaintiff holding the forged document. Every page carried her signature. Now no one believed her. The day I left home it was raining. Karen pushed my suitcase out the door, her tone as flat as if she were announcing the weather. She said, "Michael, you do not deserve our family name." Jason stood in the doorway blocking the light. Laura rolled her eyes, said I should have left long ago. I lifted the old suitcase, its wheels dragging over the gravel with a harsh sound. No one came after me. That was the moment I realized I was no longer their son. Karen turned back inside, the click of the lock crisp and final. I looked down at my soaked sleeves, said nothing. I went looking for work, no one would hire me. The family scandal had spread all over town. They said I forged the accounts and stole from my own company. Jason took over the business. Karen came forward herself, saying she would fix my mistake. They put all the blame on me. Said everything was my fault. I became a joke. I rented a tiny basement. Outside the window was a drain. Sometimes I could see the soles of passing shoes. I did odd jobs, moved cargo, washed cars, fixed wires. At night I sat under the window studying the books again. Learning how to make numbers speak. That was when Rachel met me. She worked at a restaurant, her smile folding tiny wrinkles at the corners of her eyes. She asked what I used to do. I said accounting. She smiled and said, "You do not look like it, you look like you are on the run." I said, "Close enough." She did not ask more, just handed me a meal. I remembered that meal all my life. Rachel was the first person who did not ask if I was that guy from that scandal. She only cared if I had eaten. Later I moved to another city. No one there knew me. I found a small accounting job. The boss trusted me. I was never late, my books cleaned down to the last cent. In 3 years I earned my CPA license. That day when I picked it up my hands were shaking. I knew it was my key back. Karen's company had expanded during those years. Jason mismanaged the funds, the cash flow started collapsing. They called me, it was Laura. She said, "Mom wants you to come back, help out, stop being stubborn." I heard Karen's voice on the phone. "Cold, what can he even do if he comes back?" I did not answer, just hung up. Rachel asked if I was going back. I said not yet. She said, "You can beat them now, right?" I smiled and said almost. That fall I started my own financial consulting firm. My first client was Jason's competitor. They wanted an audit of Karen's company. I agreed. The first time I saw Karen again was in a meeting room. She froze when she walked in and saw me. Jason behind her looking sour. I stood and nodded. Her voice trembled. "What do you mean by this?" I said I was hired to review the accounts. Jason slammed the table. "You trying to screw us?" I did not look up, kept flipping through the report. There was the forged signature. A signature I knew too well. I looked up and said, "Is that your signature?" Her face changed. She opened her mouth but said nothing. Jason stepped forward to grab the file. My assistant stopped him. I said, "The meeting is being recorded. Please watch your behavior." His face turned red. Laura called and "Stop it, everyone outside can hear." Karen was silent for a long time, then said, "Michael, we are family." I smiled. 3 years ago you did not say that." Her face went pale. The investigation lasted a month. I compared their books day after day. False data unfolding page by page. Rachel helped me organize files. She asked, "Are you really going to send them to jail?" I said they should have gone long ago. She said nothing more. Jason came to talk. He cornered me in the parking lot, said, "How much to make this end?" I looked at him and asked how much to buy back 3 years of my name. He said nothing. The wind messed up his hair. I saw fear in his eyes. That was when I knew they were scared. The last time I saw Karen was in court. She wore a neat suit, but her nails were no longer red. the lawyer whispered to her. Her hands shook. I was across the room, handing in the document she once threw in my face. The judge asked, "Is this your signature?" She bowed her head in silence. Jason said nothing. Laura covered her face, crying. Nadia stood in the back, turned away. I did not look at them again. When the verdict came, Rachel held my hand. She said, "It is over, right?" I nodded. Outside it was raining lightly, like the day I was thrown out. I said, "It is not over, it is payback." Karen went bankrupt. Jason was banned from company management. Laura left the city. Only I stayed. Rachel said we should move. I said no, I am staying. I rented the same old meeting room as my new office. The marks on the wall were still there, left from when Jason slammed the table. I told the workers not to paint over them. They asked why. I said to remind me. Months later I got a letter from Karen. She said she wanted to see me. She was old and wanted to talk. I did not reply. Rachel asked what I would do. I said let her come. And she did. That day I was signing papers in the office. The door opened. She stood there, her hair gray. I looked up. She kept her head down. She said, "Michael, I was wrong." I said nothing, just told her to sit. She held an old envelope in her hand. She said, "After you left, I knew it was not you." I asked, "Then why did you still do it?" She looked up, eyes full of tears. She said, "I was afraid the company would collapse, afraid people would laugh at me." I said, "Everything you were afraid of has already happened." She cried, shaking shoulders. I handed her a tissue. She took it, her hands trembling. After a long time, she said, "I live alone now." I nodded. She said, "Sometimes I think if I had believed you that day, would everything have been different?" I did not answer. She looked at me. Said, "Will you forgive me?" I capped my pen and said, "I do not hate you and I will not forgive you." She froze. I said, "Some things do not need forgiveness, only memory." She lowered her head, her sobs soft. When she left, it was already dark. I watched her walk away, her steps no longer sharp as before. Rachel came and asked, "Do you regret it?" I said no. She leaned on the door, said, "She looks much older." I said yes, she finally got what she feared. The next day I went to work. I saw the news, Karen's company officially liquidated. In the photo she kept her head down, her face tired. I looked at it for a long time, folded the newspaper, put it in a drawer. Rachel asked why I kept it. I said to remember the truth. That night I went home. Rachel was cooking soup in the kitchen. She asked, "So have you won now?" I smiled and said I never meant to win. She said nothing more. The smell of soup slowly filled the room. I sat by the window, thought of that rainy day. Thought of the sound of the door closing. A sound I will never forget.